Meeting number 817. I recognise there's a quorum. Therefore, I call this meeting to order. As per usual, we will seek wisdom and start the meeting with a prayer. Heavenly Father, grant that we who would seek to serve you may have the wisdom of your Spirit, the guiding of your hand, and the grace to serve together for the prosperity of our city. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Let's stand up for the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, all beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Thank you. Please be seated. I have to share from my view here. When we're singing our anthem, we're very good, but as I look to the director's room, the way the lights there remind me of Queen when they did Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm going, oh, okay. But nobody else could see it. That's why I was smiling quite a bit. Yeah, that's it. I was just about to hear Scaramouche coming out of there. Anyway, there was councillors, item 1 this morning, attendance and apologies. We have granted permission for both Councillor Caldwell and Councillor Patterson to come in virtually and in attendance. So they have all the full rights and responsibilities as per usual in voting and entering into debate. I'll do my best to see interaction between virtual attendance. So under the Local Government Act, I've granted those rights because of the COVID health reasons. Okay. I don't think that we've got full, those included, so there's no leave of absence. So we'll go to item 3, condolences. I'll go to Councillor Gates first.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I'd like to ask that a message of condolence be sent to the Ellison family at Pimpama.
Second, Councillor Owen Jones.
And Mr Mayor, Graham Ellison passed away a couple of weeks ago. He was the first president of the Pimpama Men's Shed, and I didn't bring any details at all of the history with me today. My office sent the condolence through, and to be honest, I had overlooked getting some information on it. But he was a fine gentleman, and he led a very strong and willing group of men who got a lot of pleasure out of the establishment of the Pimpama Men's Shed, probably some 6 years ago now. It was originally based at the South Coast Restoration Society, and it was under his charter that we established a men's shed for Pimpama on their own grounds near the School of Arts. And he made a very great contribution, as men's sheds do everywhere, but showed great leadership for the other gentlemen who gathered together to participate, and we send our sincere sympathy to his family.
Thank you. Councillor, I put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Just checking. Councillor Caldwell, it's a yes.
Lost him.
Councillor Patterson, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes from you. Cam, you there?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Okay, yes, all right.
Be included on that one, Mr Mayor, please.
Okay, could you include councillor Hamill? Motion carried. Next condolences, I'll go to councillor Vorster.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I move that a motion of condolence be passed and that a message of sympathy be forwarded to the Undercut family following the very sad passing of Pravin.
Seconder, councillor Taylor.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I'm sure all of us, as we've become so very connected to our communities, encounter hundreds and hundreds of people, and they're inspiring characters. One of the tragedies, though, of having many years in this position is that often some of those characters pass on. And just a few days ago, I learned that one humble servant of our community, Pravin, a proud member of the Robina Lions, after years of service to that group and to the community, passed away unexpectedly. The Robina Lions took some solace, though, in his passing, and I understand that Pravin and his wife had enjoyed the most spectacular day together, so that when his time came, he had the opportunity to enjoy the best that the Gold Coast had to offer, the best that the area had to offer, but most importantly, the best that his family had to offer. The Robina Lions Club operate or look after a park. It's the Robina Lions Park on Cheltenham Drive. And in that park is a memorial to all of the Robina Lions who have served. And I learned that one of, I think, Pravin's son, had actually ventured to this park quite often during his studies at Bond University around the Health and Knowledge Precinct, and had spent time in the park just because it was the park that was closest. And when the Robina Lions unveiled their memorial plaque at that park, he had this very touching moment where a park that meant a lot to him would now mean a lot to his family and his dad in perpetuity. And it was a very touching moment for the club to learn that. And all I can say is that we've got a lot of unsung heroes that make a huge contribution to our respective communities, and sometimes it's the quietest that leave the biggest gaps. And I'm very terribly sad that we no longer count Pravin as one of our own. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councillors, I put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. And Councillor Patterson, is that a yes?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Okay, motion carried. No other condolences? We'll move on to Mayoral Minute, the brief one. Councillor, there's a preamble there. Just want to move that the date of the full council meeting on 26th of Tuesday 26, 10 a.m. be rescheduled to 25th, Monday at 10 a.m. Anyone against it? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands.
In favour, Mr Mayor.
I just read it out.
What you
Oh, was it?
has now been rectified. That's great.
Okay. Okay, I'll take the vote again. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Carried. Confirmation of minutes. Any corrections, councillors? So I'd like to move for adoption. Councillor Hamill. Second, Councillor Tozer. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Carried. Okay, councillors, mayoral report. I'll do my best. It's quite a lot there, and but there are some very important items that I want to elaborate and take you on a journey on that one. But we go back to 23rd of February, Gold Coast weather event, the flood coverage from the tropical low pressure system that impacted our city. As chair of the Disaster Management Group, I can report that I issued 54 media statements and interviews in that period, and reached across the potential audience of 1.47 million. So the channels of which we're using and the dashboard on our website has worked nicely. So, and we dodged another bullet, I tell you. The flooding hit Brisbane all the way to Logan River. They went around us and flooded northern New South Wales. So, but we were ready, and we'll continue to do so. Next item, Junior Council and Executive. We had to, they're not the Junior Council, they're on the screen. And as you can see, we've had Councillor Gates, Vorster, Patterson, Hamill, Tozer, Battle, Lumsden, McDonald and Owen Jones in attendance. It marks our 30th anniversary of Junior Council and now engage more than 100 students from 29 local high school. Junior Council is a 2-year civic leadership program aimed at students in year 10 and 11. Congratulations to our junior mayor, Samuel Brown. I saw him yesterday, I think. Time goes quick, and he was appointed captain of his school. And congratulations to him. I've never met him face to face. Great article in the bulletin about him as well. And congratulations to other Junior Council executive members. Looking forward to work with junior councils on issues that matters to the youth. And last year, the junior mayor and myself did a joint letter to the Premier about the problem with vaping, and that was taken up and pursued, and we'll continue to work on that, especially headed by Councillor Vorster. So it's good to know that they've got their input in that issue as well. CCTV camera upgrades, as you know, we've got 700 strong fleet of cameras, and we continue to upgrading our cameras so that the clarity, and especially in the night time, and we did this. Another initiative is the $20,000 anti-hoon trailer, where it can captures. We can move the whole trailer there and captures hooning, and it's evidence-based, where we can give it to QPS for prosecution, and the QPS is doing a good job on that front. Gold Coast Women in Business Awards winners. I was joined by Councillor Gates. We had lunch with all the Gold Coast Women in Business of the Year.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor.
Can you hear
I'm
me?
really sorry to interrupt you, but some of these have previously been presented.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Certainly the study Gold Coast, and certainly this one, and I think it was probably 2 meetings ago. I don't know
really?
if anyone else recalls, but
Oh, okay. So there you go again.
yeah.
And yeah.
They are welcome, Mr Mayor, but I just thought,
No, I appreciate
given it's
that.
a long report, that you may wish to skip over
Okay,
the
we'll do
first
that. So the next item is Study Gold Coast. Oh, that's the In Conversation with Lee Cushing and Mary Lee, Queensland Ballet Performance Sleeping Beauty. Next one. Study Gold Coast Welcome Back campaign. Next one. Concrete Pour, City New Disaster and Emergency Management Centre. Next one. Steps to reduce wildlife vehicle collision. Next one. Vice Chancellor, all the 3 Vice Chancellors meetings together with General Manager of TAFE Queensland. Right, next one. official launch of Celebrate Church. And we welcome Pastor Lucas and Jackie Connell, based in Mudgeeraba. Had the opportunity to go to this first service, and they're on every Sunday afternoon, 4 p.m. Next one, official opening of the Safety Camera Network. Councillor Vorster in attendance. Next one, Broadway musical Come Fly Away. Highly recommended. I saw it in London, and I'm going to see it again. It's a wonderful human story. So, and it's true. Next one, plaque unveiling at Australia House. Played a video.
A slice of the Gold Coast will now take centre stage on the opposite side of the world in London, with a new plaque unveiled honouring our city's role in hosting the Commonwealth Games. Mayor Tom Tate making a special trip for the occasion.
Visitors here at least have a chance to have a look at what the Gold Coast is all about, and perhaps will trigger wanting to come and visit our city.
Birmingham will host the next Commonwealth Games this July.
Okay, next one, meeting with Commonwealth Games Federation President Dame Louise Martin. And so it's good to catch up with Louise again. And they're busy looking at that time, Melbourne wasn't announced. And I don't know, is it announced yet? No, good. Oh, yeah, oh, very good. Next, Commonwealth Day service. It's our second time to be invited to Westminster Abbey and to sit right there where the royal family is. Unfortunately, Her Majesty the Queen was unable to attend. I think she had COVID or something like that. So anyway, it's a wonderful service. It's a privilege and honour to represent the Gold Coast. Meeting with the CEO of AMP Capital over there, and that Sean Johnson, owner of Pacific Fair and Brickwork Centre at Ferry Road, and he had share with me some additional investment he wished to do. Next one, meeting with Transport of London, all the Transport Commissioner, Andy Byford, and Ben Johnson, Head of Transport. Well, here's an interesting takeaway. It's an extensive network, and they are guided by the Mayor's vision that the transport strategy and its target to have 80% of all journeys be made by either foot, by cycle, or using public transport by 2041. So quite amazing. And you know, we took on a lot of latest technology, and Director Twine will be embracing some of the ideas that they're using. Next one, meeting with CEO Birmingham. We went up there. Ian Reid, CEO, is overseeing the plan and delivery of the largest ever games in their region. And it's the third time the Commonwealth Games being held in England. It was in London in 1934, Manchester 2002. Next one, meeting with the Mayor of West Midlands Combined Authority. West Midlands is it's like what a funny photo there. West Midlands is a bit like it's not a state, but it's like a large area where three cities sits underneath, one of which is Birmingham. And the interesting thing is that they're in charge of the budget, and so there's a little bit of a to and fro between West Midland Mayor and the Birmingham Mayor. I won't get into details, but I try to be nice to both. And Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games Unit caught up with Craig Cooper, Program Director, and Andrew Sudbury, Program Manager. So they're doing all the, like we did, you know, Festival 2018. They took that idea, ran with it. Next one, Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council Roundtable. Yep, look, we're all on the screen there. It's about, well, the meeting was titled Australia and the UK, Culture and Sport in Global Economy. So we only want to talk about that because I think November last year, this free trade agreement between the UK and Australia, and that's being built more and more, and that we can exchange our product without having tariff on it. So fingers crossed that all the English cars we can get at a cheap Hyundai price. Let's see what happens. West Midlands Growth Company and what they're doing, new economy. I took a lot of notes there, and the capitalisation work, business and tourism programs, e-sport. They went into a lot of detail there. I think they're going to do e-sport in Birmingham as a demonstration sport, but the figures are phenomenal, and we're getting all the data from West Midlands, and looking forward to get all that presented to you. It's an amazing growth there. Then the meeting with Gallagher Insurance, our captive insurance people, just to get my head around it again, and I'm convinced that it's the right way to go for our city. When I first came in, I didn't know much about it, but numerous visit and the way the markets worked and the way that's been operated, I can say to you that it was the right structure. Site visit to Atelier des Lumières, Paris. I love my French accent, nobody else does. The digital art gallery we went was very immersive, exhibition of Cézanne, The Light of Provence, and Kandinsky, The Odyssey of Abstraction. And all those that you see on the wall, it's all digital. And anyhow, we've got more of this to present to you, and you know, should we go down the path of a digital museum. Paris 2024, we went across there to meet with the Olympic Games organisation, and Gerd Perez, and International Relation, Alexandro, Director of Mobility, and Vincent Pasquini, Head of International Cooperation 2024. We talked about the logistics, mainly transport and moving people and the safety, and it's an enormous scale in complexity, and so they asked me to be part of their advisory. So it's amazing. Paris 2024 Olympic Organising Committee goes, well, we'll take your advice from the Gold Coast, and the people up the road hasn't had that vision. Anyhow, we'll go where we are asked. Come from away, London performance, yes, we went there, and so we took a time off and enjoy ourselves, Ruth and I. Then back home, Minister for Children, Youth, Justice, Minister for Multicultural Affairs. It was a pleasure to meet Minister Leanne Leonard. She's a wonderful lady, and she's got a handle on youth intervention and rehabilitation part. And we talked about the government response to vaping as well. And next one, meeting with Deputy Ambassador from Israel, and via Zoom, and this year marks 35th anniversary of our sister city relationship between Netanya and the Gold Coast. So we'll probably do a certificate exchange by Zoom, because there's a few travel and promotion to do. We just got to prioritise. Official launch of Gold Coast Business Excellence Award. And Councillor Jones was there, Councillor Gates was there, I think Councillor Bowden Lumsden, you were there, and a bloody long speech by somebody there, and the crowd would start, you know, when the crowd starts speaking among themselves, you lost them, and but just...
The first half hour was okay.
Yeah, you left for the second half because you had to go somewhere. But anyhow, it's launched. It's launched. We learned a lot, and yeah, great. And I'll be delegating you the task next time, Councillor Gates. Launch of Gold Coast Sports Star Awards. Now, Councillor Patterson was in attendance and was held at the Gold Coast Sporting Hall of Fame and at Owen Park, Southport. It's the 53rd Gold Coast Sports Stars Award, held on and it'll be held on Friday, the 8th of July at Royal Pines. 9 outstanding local athletes are in the running for prestigious 2021 Sports Star mantle. When you look at the names, it's not about, oh yeah, I won a gold medal at the Olympics. These people won multiple golds, world champions, champion people anyway, and to be, and they're all on the Gold Coast. All on the Gold Coast is wonderful. I took the opportunity to acknowledge the contribution of Daphne Pire, who was the driving force behind the awards and was the foundation president of the Sporting Hall of Fame. And yeah, it's the first time I realised that Daphne is no longer with us, and it just sometimes you don't realise it, and then the emotion comes through very quickly. Hotter Gallery Leko Brictionary exhibition, and it apparently is going great guns and record attendance. So 150 models, and Ryan McNaught, he's written a book about Lego, so you can buy it across the road here. And if you haven't been, take your kids. I guarantee you they'll love it. There's over a million bricks in there. Okay, Men Matters Race Day, and there's 3,000 people in attendance, 140,000 raised. It's about Living, Prostate Cancer Foundation, and the Common Good supporting medical research. And the person from Common Good explained what he does about heart transplant and the like. And what I liked about it, he goes, this time last year, with the money you donated, we have saved 3 lives. And it got people going. I nearly got another motorbike until Ruth stopped me in the bidding. Gold Coast Suns versus Carlton. I was delighted to be there. Councillor Gates, Hamill, Taylor, Borster, Corwell, Belden, Lumsden and Owen Jones. We watch our team triumph and by impressive 30 points win. And it's one of the proud moments in our city. Sounds fantastic. Opening of Isle of Capri Bridge. Councillor Taylor in attendance. He did a great interview on camera. Oh, there's a video there. Let's play it.
A notorious traffic choke point into Surfers Paradise is about to ease. The newest section of the Isle of Capri Bridge was opened this morning with 4 lanes of traffic flowing through in a few weeks.
A swift removal of bollards and access was granted. The newest section of the Isle of Capri Bridge has finally opened to traffic.
We funded this without borrowing, and it's a good deal for ratepayers.
The project cost more than $75 million and it's set to be a congestion buster.
It was a 2-lane bridge, now it'll be a 4-lane bridge, and the traffic flow will be much better.
Connecting the bustling Isle of Capri to Surfers Paradise, it will take the pressure off the Chevron Island Bridge, giving motorists an alternative route. Larger boats will be able to pass underneath, the clearance height raised by 1.5 metres.
It's 2 dedicated lanes for cycling as well.
Work on the 60-year-old bridge began in 2020. 18,000 cars crossed it daily in 2019. By 2027, that number is expected to jump to 27,000.
The investment spent here is very important for the whole city and the Gold Coast.
Roadworks on Via Roma and Remembrance Drive will continue for another month. All 4 lanes are expected to open to traffic in the next 2 weeks. Kate Ryan, 7 Gold.
I'd say on time, on budget, well done to our transport. Good on you, Elton, and all your team. Next item, I was at Daphne's memorial service, and wonderful to listen through the history, and she never changed. She was there to give advice, putting people first. I miss her very much. Queen's Jubilee Walkway with Councillor O'Neill. We got permission to lay the Jubilee Walkway. There's only going to be 2 of those to commemorate 70 years anniversary on the throne by Queen Elizabeth II. So we're joining the walkways between Queen Elizabeth Park at Coolangatta to Phillip Park at the Spit. And it'll be a wonderful walk. I imagine there'll be some charity walk along that path. So each marker weighs 4.7 kilo, and so I think there was excess baggage there, and we had to bring 70 of those back, marking each year that Queen Elizabeth reigned. And so no, it's yeah, no. So it's great. Oh, and one other thing, what we want to do is have a sign with QR code, so that when you're standing in whatever location, it tells you about the region, the history of our region. So when you're walking, but instead of stopping, I asked Elton to make it audio so you can put on your ear and keep walking instead of just reading about it. So, and you might as well use the technology, you know. And when it's finished, we might do a charity walk ourselves and get some sponsorship for good cause. Next one, Mayor Student Ambassador Program, Councillor Gates, Caldwell, Bowden Blumsden and Owen Jones is in attendance. This is the 9th year. We appointed 15 students from both to be ambassador, and it's from both international and domestic. They're going to have a wonderful time, and they'll be tweeting all about how good the Gold Coast is. Easter United 2022 this year is at Broadwater Parklands, and it's about 6,000 people in attendance. Queensland new chief entrepreneur. This was a very interesting meeting with Wayne Gerard, and who's been appointed Queensland new chief entrepreneur. And as you all know, we're looking now for chief investment officer, and you know, some of the ideas that we're talking, there's going to be a lot of synergy with the Queensland government and ourselves, and between the two of us, I think the Health and Knowledge Precinct will now fly, finally. Those Who Rock launch, Councillor Gates, Councillor Bowden Lumsden in attendance. This is where we'll get 200 community guitarists all over the Gold Coast jamming, 6 weeks audition, 3 location, north, Hodder and south, and there'll be, at the end, there'll be on Sunday, July the 3rd. This is part of our music action plan. I think I'm not sure. Is it? Yeah. Yeah. We. Isn't that good? Yeah. I don't mind being. It's not quality, is it? It's quality for all you tall dudes. All right. Gold Coast Film Festival opening night. Bit of fun. So I made a welcome speech, and the movie for the night was How to Please a Woman, and it was a wonderful, very funny. Yes, I can hear you laughing, Councillor O'Neill. You were sitting right behind us, and. How to Please a Woman, there you go. So I learned a bit more. Yes, and you got to go and see it, honestly. Anyone who's viewing out there, It's very Australian humour. State Remembrance Project, Councillor Vorster in attendance, was a great initiative, Councillor Vorster. And 23 Gold Coast streets has been rebadged, and 14th Street with the name after the World War I service or auxiliary personnel, and with the Rising Sun emblem, and 9th Street named after family with members that served in World War I, will be badged with a poppy. So it makes you proud. It was good timing as well. Mr. Consistent, all right, got a video there. Roll the video.
For a sweet boost, Burleigh cocktail maker Mr. Consistent is adding another 19 staff following a multi-million-dollar expansion supported through Council's investment attraction program.
Enabling us to really scale up and service what we believe is going to be huge growth in our industry.
Mayor Tom Tate made the first cocktail in the new facility, naming it Raspberry Ruth after his wife.
Yeah. Yes, I nearly made it ruthless, but I pulled back on that. Hey, but look, this initiative, you know, how we a helping hand. We contributed $90,000 incentive to Mr. Consistent. Now they have 19 staff, invest in more than $1.6 million in capital expenditure, and around $1 million in operational expenditure. So we gave the seed to grow. This is a great example of how that entrepreneurial spirit coming through the COVID, and long term, I think they're going to take over the world on this one, because it's a very good product. The ingredients are mainly Gold Coast and Queensland, so good on the guys. Anzac Day, Councillor Patterson and Councillor Lacastre attended Southport. That's where I was. Took the salute off the parade together with QPS and Army Defence Force. Great crowd turnout. No doubt you all copped the rain in your area as well. We copped it, and but nobody left. Nobody left. Fantastic. Inaugural 2022 Schools Leaders celebration at Hodder. So leaders from 16 of Gold Coast State secondary schools received special recognition. And it's wonderful to see the new leaders coming through. And this morning, I think, Pacific Air, yesterday was the launch, was it? Wednesday 27th? Yep. Pacific Air Show, we were there, Councillor Castro, and it rained like anything. I think it made it more resilient. Look at the rain behind us. And but here's the thing, just on exposure in 24 hours, I was told that the reach on media in the USA only was 42.5 million. So, and this event's going to be one of the biggest, one of our biggest event in 2023, and we've got 5 + 5 + 5 years in it. Oh yeah, that's a happy shot before I went up and did a few. Before we did, we're going along the all the buildings in Service Paradise at 90 degrees, and then Matt Hall said, "You ready for some tumble?" I went, "Yes." The minute I said yes, it just went bang, and there was 3 rolls later, 3 loop-the-loops later, and yeah, it got my surprise. It was thrilling and all that sort of stuff. And they said, "Oh, do you want to fly upside down all the way back to Coolangatta?" And I said, "I don't mind as long as you don't mind a dirty plane." And, so we didn't do that. Remedy, when I got home, I made myself a Vegemite sandwich, and it worked. So looking forward to high adrenaline and I don't know what I sent here. Next council, I'll show you how many reach we got all up, but it's incredible. And yesterday, Engineers Australia Southern Regional Forum, I gave a speech. It's about future ready transport, tourism and innovation. So to all the engineers there. And I move that my Mayor's report be welcome and noted. Second to Councillor Gates. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Councillor Patterson?
In favour, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Carry unanimous. Clarification from members. There is a bit of clarification, late from me anyway. I think the bulletin wrote down my salary is $400,000. I know they're very generous to. I know I'm worth that, but it's not hard to get it right. Just check the annual report. Go to state government website. I think I'm around 260, right? 140 grand increase. Well, thank you for the vote, but I better clarify it for all the people out there who wanting to run for mayor. It's not 400, it's 260. You might want to change your mind. But thank you for that. Vote of confidence from the bulletin. Any other clarification, anyone? Yeah, I've got other clarification on the bulletin, but I don't want to take on too long. Business arising from the minutes. Councillors, any business arising from the minutes? Nil. Presentations also nil. Conflict of interest declaration on this section, nil. Thank you, Solicitor. And now we go to item 11. We first go to Lifestyle and Community Committee. Chair, Councillor Vorster.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I move that the minutes of the Lifestyle and Community Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 19th of April 2022, covered by recommendations numbered 1 through 7 be received. Thank you.
Second, Councillor Bellams Lumsden. All in favour, show of hands. Against?
In favour.
In favour. Thank you. Do I have to sign the minutes anymore or not, Joe? No? No need? Okay. All right. All good. I don't want to miss out on anything. Councillors, any items you want to raise in this? Councillor Vorster.
Thank you very much. Mr Mayor, I just had a question on item 6.4 through you to the CEO.
6.4. And the question is?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, from time to time, Council will receive reports either directly or through standing committees that merely require Council to note decisions that have already been made by City officers. I just wondered through you to the CEO whether we could move to a system where the Regional Arts Development Fund outcomes can be circulated to councillors as a memo rather than as a report through committee. It didn't garner much debate. It really hasn't over time, and I just think that's a better use of city resources.
Take it on notice. Councillor Gates.
Mr Mayor, if I may just contribute, Councillor Owen Jones and I had a meeting last week about, as you'll recall, there was a suggestion that we establish a grants committee, and as part of it we went through every grant that's available through this city and the RADF funding, and there were several, not just this, that were recommended to come to councillors in the future as a memo. And the city solicitor has the list, and I believe she was going to prepare a document for consideration that eliminated many of the reports that we're just noting. So it's already in hand that comes to us.
All right, so take it on notice. Anyone else?
Mr Mayor, I'm happy to take it on notice.
Thank you. Any other items, councillors? Councillor Vorster.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Happy to move that the recommendations of the report be adopted. Thank you.
Second, Councillor Belden Lumsden. You want to do that? Second? Okay. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands.
Favour.
Okay. Unanimous. Here, here. Transport Infrastructure. Thank you, Director. Councillor Pauline Young.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the report of the Transport and Infrastructure Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 19th of April 2022, covered by recommendations 1 to 7, be received.
Second to Councillor Taylor. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands.
In favour.
Favour. Against? Carried. Any items separately? Councillor Gates.
If we could consider 6.3 separately, I'm going to leave the room. I made the declaration at committee, and then when I come back, I will request that we deal with 7.1 as well. But I'll leave the room for 6.3.
Okay. Declarations on the screen. Is that right, 6.3? We go to there. Councillor Vorster.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Just related to 6.3 as well. During the committee meeting, I drew the meeting's attention to the fact that my brother is a supplier to the Gold Coast Turf Club. He has ATMs placed at the premises. Having read the report, I couldn't form a nexus between speed humps on Racecourse Drive and any loss or gain that my brother stood to earn. But I do know issues around the Turf Club are quite contentious in the community, so I took the step to share that with my colleagues. It wasn't progressed as a DCOI at the meeting, but I thought I'd take the further step today to make that disclosure again in case any councillor had questions or wished to move a procedural motion.
Councillors, anyone? Okay, we'll deal with 6.3. Someone like to move?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Okay, move. Councillor Patterson. Second, Councillor Owen Jones. Councillor Patterson, you want to speak on that?
Yes, Mr Mayor. The equine precinct is a very important part of our city. It's important from a industry perspective, and our horses are obviously very precious to us. This road is a really important traffic through road, so we've kind of got these two pressuring concerns. The council officers took on board the petition and had already been working with the Turf Club and really working to find a solution that really works for the horse trainers, for our horses, and also for the traffic. Interestingly, we identified that in Victoria, in equine precincts, boom gates are used very effectively because they can just be used during those early hours, and then they're not affecting the road at the other parts of the day. That cannot be allowed because of state laws in Queensland, so we couldn't do that. But everyone's pretty happy with this as what is effectively a pretty short to medium term solution, and we'll be needing to look at something as a longer term solution. But this is really, really helpful for that area for the moment. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone want to speak against the motion? All right. I'll put it to the vote. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion's carried. Please recall Councillor Gates. Is that worth a $5 fine?
$20 for every one of Herman's jokes that has to be explained by Herman. We don't have time, do we, Mr Mayor?
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. If we could deal with item 7.1 separately. Whilst it's not mentioned within the documents before us, that item deals with the potential purchase of a property, and Councillor Hamill was kind enough to tell me that the agent for the sale was a donor to my election campaign. So I made the declaration at committee that I had received funds from Jason Hintz and LJ Hooker at Ormo, and I did seek the committee's approval to remain in the room, as I will do again today. Okay. I have had no discussions with anyone. I was not aware that the agent had been appointed, so I'll leave it to my colleagues.
So was there a procedural motion carried? Who moved it?
I'll have to have a look at
Don't worry.
in the minutes.
Whoever moved it can remember, can't you?
Well, it wasn't me. It was Councillor Voss.
Councillor Tozer, you moved this? Yeah, I know. I'm just asking Councillor Tozer since he's in the room.
If I'm happy to move.
On the screen?
Councillors Tozer, times of donation, councillors other donation, public interest. Yeah. I had some prepared words that.
Are you happy with that one?
Nicely.
Okay. Second, Councillor Caldwell, I guess. I heard you there. Well, I'm wrong. Councillor Pauline Young, seconder. Anyone want to speak against? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands.
Councillor Tate, Councillor Hamill, Councillor Owen Jones, Councillor Peter Young, Councillor Lumsden, Councillor Castro, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Vorster, Councillor Pauline Young, Councillor McDonald, Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Patterson, and I think
Councillor Caldwell, is that a yes?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'm here, and I apologise. I was trying to catch your attention to say that I was the one that moved it at committee.
Yep. Yeah. It's hard when I don't see two people on the screen, so we'll see if we can get our technology upgraded. But then again, COVID's nearly over. Okay. Motion carried. You stay. Someone like to move the 7.1?
You do.
Councillor Vorster, it's on the screen. Do I have a second?
I just had a question.
Okay. Can I just take a second motion, or will that seconder, Councillor Pauline Young? Before the speaking on this one, I'll go to Councillor Caldwell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The question was just a follow-up to the one at committee in relation to the programming of the duplication of the road leading up to this roundabout, and did the director find out that information as to when that proposed duplication would occur?
Director?
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes, it's just outside the current 4-year program, Councillor Caldwell. I have a copy of the draft concept of the 4-lane panel, which I'll send through to all of the councillors and yourself after this.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, I'm happy with that.
Okay. Councillor Vorster, speak on the motion.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to make a point at full council that was made at committee, and it's this. As we've got a growing population, there's going to be a greater need for us to deliver infrastructure to underpin our lifestyle, and I'm sure we'll hear about that later today. What I think the view of the committee was is that we would like a body of work done between property services, TI and EP&E to ensure that when there are known parcels of land that we need in order to support future road projects, that we're actually an active participant in the real estate market to secure those parcels before they're either developed or become too expensive for us to progress all important road upgrades. That was a gap, I think it'd be fair to say, in council's visibility drawn to attention during the committee. I just hope that, and I'm sure it's the case, that the 3 responsible directors now convene a meeting to make sure that we've got a forward program to deal proactively with purchases moving forward.
Okay. Anyone speak against the motion? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against?
In favour, Mr Mayor.
I'll call the division. All in favour, show of hands.
Councillor Tate, Councillor Hamill, Councillor Owen Jones, Councillor Gates,
In
Councillor
favour, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Bartle Lumsden, Councillor Castro, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Vorster, Councillor Pauline Young, Councillor McDonald, Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Caldwell.
Carry unanimous. Any other items, councillors? Councillor Vorster. Oh, no, Councillor Pauline, yeah.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the remaining recommendations of the Transport and Infrastructure Committee meeting be adopted.
Seconder, Councillor Taylor. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Thank you, Director. We go to Planning and Environmental Committee. I'll go to Councillor Gates.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the report of the Planning Environment Committee meeting held on Thursday, 21st of April 2022, covered by recommendations 1 to 3, be received.
Seconder, Councillor Tozer. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Councillor Gates?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. At committee, if we could deal with item 6.1, I have a change to propose. At committee, further information was requested about the two things, the impacts to Rudd Park during construction and also whether there would be an easement provided for access or what the best method of providing access through the designed building might be connecting to Rudd Park. So if I could perhaps move what I think the recommended outcome is, and then we can move on from there. So it's a new condition 8, which I would understand has been provided to the Minutes Secretary, which says that all construction activities, built structures and associated infrastructure must be wholly contained within the subject site and not impact upon the adjacent Rudd Park.
On the screen, Councillor Vorster.
I'm happy to second that, Mr Mayor.
Second the motion.
Sorry, there's one more condition change. Option 1 was the suggestion of the officers, which is now condition number 9, and says Maui Lane, as indicated on the floor plan, is to remain open and unobstructed at all times to provide public pedestrian connection between Tweed Street and Rudd Park. This requirement must be included within the community management statement.
On the screen.
So moved.
Seconder, Councillor Vorster. You want to speak further on that, Councillor Gates?
No, Mr Mayor.
Anyone speak against? Put the motion to you.
Mr Mayor, can I just ask a question?
Yep.
Mr Mayor, my question really relates to the memo that we received from Lara, which was very helpful, but set out in relation to that second condition that Councillor Gates has put in, that the preferred option 1 was only preferred on the basis that Parks didn't support it being the responsible entity for the maintenance of the access easement. Can I just ask a question through you, perhaps to Cherie? Is it possible that the easement document could be drafted in such a way, which seems to be the case in the memo, where the grantor of the easement, being the body corporate or the developer in either case, could actually be included in the easement as the responsible entity for maintenance?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to review the memo.
So you take
in
it on
principle, it sounds fine, but I'd like to take it on notice.
Yeah, it's taken on notice, Councillor Caldwell.
Okay, well, Mr Mayor, taking it on notice is probably going to be a little bit too late, but my preferred option, having had the experience with these types of matters at All I See and more recently at Salacia Waters, we need to make it as bulletproof as we possibly can. So I would have preferred that an easement be the ultimate outcome, but in the absence of that advice, the recommendation seems to be appropriate.
Okay. All right. So I put it to the vote. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Could you record Councillor McDonald voting in the negative? Right. That's done. Any other items, councillors? Councillor Gates?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the remaining recommendations of the Planning and Environment Committee be adopted.
Seconder, Councillor Tozer. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Yeah, motion carried. Thank you, Director. We'll go to Water, Waste and Energy.
Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor O'Neill. Yes.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I move that the report of the Water, Waste and Energy Committee meeting held on Thursday, 21st of April 2022, covered by recommendations 1 to 6, be received.
Seconder, Councillor Hamill. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Any items you wish to deal separately, councillors? Councillor O'Neill.
I move that the recommendations of Water, Waste and Energy Committee be adopted.
Seconder, Councillor Peter Young. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands.
In favour.
Against? Carry unanimous. Thank you, Director. We go to Governance, Administration and Finance. Councillor Owen Jones. No?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you. I move the report of the Governance, Administration and Finance Committee meeting held on Wednesday, the 27th of April 2022, covered by recommendations 1 to 11 be received.
Seconder, Councillor Peter Young. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Yep. Motion carried.
Mr Mayor, if we could just deal with item 7.2 separately.
Yep, just a second. I'll 7.2?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Councillors, we're going to 7.2.
Mr Mayor, there was some proposed changes of the wording that came about with an observation that Councillor Hamill had made after we had moved the item. So Mr McCabe's provided some words.
Okay.
Mr Mayor, I'm happy to move, and if I have a seconder, I'll briefly speak to it.
Move Councillor Owen Jones, seconder Councillor Hamill. On the screen.
I'm happy to read it out if you'd like, Councillor Young.
Yeah, all right then.
Mr Mayor, the city has an ongoing program where we seek to recover outstanding rates from ratepayers who aren't ratepayers and haven't been ratepayers for more than 3 years because they've failed to make the payment. The vast majority of ratepayers do the right thing and pay or enter into an arrangement. A very small number of ratepayers don't do that, and this is an ongoing program. It effectively will remain a confidential item until there is a point in time where there's some public notices issued, Mr Mayor, and then but what inevitably happens is that the ratepayers or their financiers come through and make the payments for the rates. So with that, I'm moving, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Anyone speak against the motion? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands.
Favour.
Favour. Okay. Motion carried. Any other items you want to deal separately? Councillor Owen Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move the remaining recommendations of the Governance, Administration, Finance Committee be adopted.
Seconder, Councillor McDonald. The motion to you. All in favour, show of hands.
In favour.
Against? Carry unanimous. Thank you. We now go to economic tourism and events. Councillor Castro.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I move that the report of the Economy, Tourism and Events Committee meeting, which was held on Wednesday, the 27th of April 2022, covered by recommendations 1 to 8, be received.
Okay, second to Councillor Tozer. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands.
Favour.
Against? Motion carried. Second. Councillor Lacastra. Any items separately?
No, Mr Mayor, and I think while every other committee was taking it easy and sipping cocktails, one committee worked extremely hard. We, just as an example to everyone else, I think we were 4 hours and 35 minutes. A great debate, which is why there's no debate today, because we solved it all yesterday.
Okay, so are you moving?
So, yeah. So yes, moving for adoption, Mr Mayor, please.
Second, Councillor Owen Jones.
And Mr Mayor, I'm happy to second it, and I'm also happy to invite Councillor Castro to any of the other committee meetings that are also held, and he might enjoy, for example, planning in particular. I'm sure Councillor Caldwell would welcome Councillor Castro's attendance at any point in time. They usually start at 9 o'clock in the morning, Bob.
Okay. So I take it we go for the vote. All in favour, show of hands.
In favour.
Against? Carry unanimous. Director. Item 12, consideration notice the motion. Nil. Question on notice. Nil. Presentation of petitions. Anyone? Everyone's happy? Nil. General GB. I've got no GB here. Anyone got GBs? EBGBs? It's not here. Is it in the agenda?
No, Mr Mayor, but I assume you were calling from the floor.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying. Then we go to other business. Councillor, we're going to other business. Draft corporate plan. Mr. CEO, it's over to you, and as a presentation. Now, if it's deemed anything confidential, you'll have to let me know. Everything's good. I like it to be open and transparent at local government level. That's what we do. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, councillors. As you remember, our current corporate plan expires, and it expires at the 30th of June this year. Thank you. And we've been looking at developing a new corporate plan through the last 12 months, with that corporate plan being a 5-year plan for the city. So just a reminder in terms of our legislative obligations, the city's corporate plan is the city's premier strategic document. It defines the strategic direction and supports delivery of the city vision. There are some key legislative requirements that must be included. The strategic direction, obviously, performance indicators. We must undertake community engagement. We should include the commercial business unit objectives and activities, and it has to be adopted in sufficient time to inform the next budget. So this will need to be adopted prior to the budget being brought down in June. In terms of development, you'll be aware that we brought a paper to you earlier last year around the scope and approach for council. We've done quite a bit of work in terms of stakeholder engagement and aspirations and a lot of research. So, for example, we've looked at the last 3 years of our community engagement across the city and tried to ascertain some of the key themes that keep coming through our community engagement activities. We've also obviously undertaken other work in terms of the Living on the Gold Coast Views report, some community input, as well as obviously a workshop with the Mayor and councillors back in February. So all of that work we've brought together in terms of this new corporate plan. And what we have attempted to do is, I guess, get the essence of those key aspirations for the city and bring those forward in terms of the documentation in front of you. In terms of the corporate plan itself, it identifies the priorities for the next 5 years, and it should be used to drive our investment decision-making for the next period. Now, there's a big difference this year in terms of what the corporate plan looks like. You may remember previously it looked a bit like that. It's about a 40-page document. What we've tried to do this time is design it more for a community audience, make it a lot easier to access. What we did realise when we did the review was I think we had about 3,700 hits on our website for this plan over a period of 4 years. We would really like to improve people's understanding of what the corporate plan is, what the city's doing and where we're headed. So we've really tried to take, I guess, a radical change in direction in terms of how it's presented for a community. In terms of final publication, we're looking to primarily be it on web and media content. So that enables us to keep it up to speed and updated. This document was printed back in 2017-18. It is dated, and we'd really like to make sure that our content is much more up to speed and up to date for the city. So that takes us to how we've actually structured this new corporate plan. So we've got two key components. Obviously, we have our city vision, inspired by lifestyle driven by opportunity. Under that, what we've looked to do is develop what we're calling Gold Coast 2032, which is the themes and aspirations for the city over the next decade. And that really starts to explain what we're looking for that city to be like, feel like by 2032. So give everyone an understanding of what we're trying to achieve. The corporate plan then is really the next 5 years. So we've got a 10-year outlook in terms of aspirations, but a 5-year corporate plan which is more detailed around what our outcomes are and how we're going to measure success to take us towards that 2032 vision. So in terms of the document you'll see in the papers, we have Gold Coast 2032. So this describes our aspirations for the future of the city under 6 themes. And as we developed the themes, we were looking across all of our stakeholder feedback to understand what seemed to resonate most with our stakeholders, yourselves and the community. And we've also tried to bring in, where we can, the language being used by people on the Gold Coast through the surveys and the historic community engagement, language from council, to try and make sure that it actually resonates with the people who are reading it. For each theme, we have 2 statements. We've got the short form statement, which you see on the visual here, plus we've got a longer form statement, which kind of provides a bit of a deeper explanation about what a vibrant lifestyle is, or what a thriving, diverse, thriving economy is, and what that's going to mean. So we're hoping that that enables us to set a bit of a direction for the future around what we're looking to achieve. And as the corporate plan gets implemented, we can start taking stock of whether we're actually reaching that. In terms of the corporate plan, we've put that on 1 page rather than 35. So for each of the themes, we're keeping those themes in that alignment with the 10-year vision, and we're looking at our outcomes for the next 5 years and those performance measures of success. In terms of the corporate plan, we're also proposing, and something we'll bring back to you at the next meeting, an annual review of that corporate plan. We always do performance reporting on our indicators, and that's presented to you and in the annual report. But if you bring that review back, what we're going to be looking at is, should you be making any changes? Are things tracking as we intended? Are there new emerging priorities? We're looking to try and make the corporate plan more agile for the city. So rather than we're stuck with a plan for 5 years, we can hopefully review that on an annual basis. It may be that each year we don't make any change, but it might be that there are some new things we need to bring in and other things that can drop off the plan. The second half of the corporate plan, which is required in the legislation, is the objectives and significant business activities for our commercialised business units. So this was in the existing plan, and it's to say it will be in this plan too. So we have Gold Coast Water and Gold Coast Waste Management. So in terms of the legislative requirements, these 2 pages for the corporate plan meet those requirements, but enable us to provide more flexibility around how we present that to the community and make sure that the information is kept timely and contemporary. The other thing we've included in the report is a set of new roles for council. So in the existing corporate plan, we have 3 roles: lead, support and advocate. Through discussion with the internal stakeholders, it was felt that there were a few other roles that would really be more helpful to define what council's role is in delivering particular projects or activities for the city. So as we get into the implementation of the new corporate plan, each of the activities will have a role against them, so we can understand, are we a partner or a service provider, or are we a lead or an advocator? So it enables both ourselves and the community to understand what our contribution is. In terms of the corporate plan, if it is endorsed today for community engagement, we have a citywide engagement activity planned, which will be through our usual routes: Have Your Say, social media platforms. We also have a specific youth engagement planned. It's part of a junior council workshop session that's already established and set up. I think it's the 4th of May. So that's going to engage directly with youth in the city, and we have an internal consultation proposed too. So all of those results will be brought back through to you. The timeline is very tight, and we knew it would be tight this year. We're obviously looking to have council consider endorsing this today for community engagement. It will be brought back, obviously, in June for adoption, and between then, we'll be looking at the results of community engagement and bringing a report back with that final adoption paper. And go live would be 1 July. And that would be adopted just prior to the budget being adopted. So the first year of our new corporate plan would commence from 1 July this year. So in terms of next steps, we have consultation engagement, we have the identification of signature actions and investments against the corporate plan, and obviously bringing the plan back with those to yourselves in June. Any questions?
Any questions? Councillor Vorster.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, at the outset, I just want to say I found the report more comforting than the presentation, because what the report talks to is about a holistic view at ensuring alignment of our strategies and plans, and certainly that's the work that needs to be done. But, Mr Mayor, I had a question concerning, let's see what page it is, page 13 of the supplementary agenda, and it's the page that effectively shows the 6 pillars that undermine the shape and form of our corporate plan. And, Mr Mayor, I suppose my first question is, how did city officers translate the early research into the proposed city aspirations and measures of success? And if I can just tease out an example, under the One City pillar, the number one outcome that we hope to achieve is partnerships to leverage emerging opportunities for the city to support the delivery of the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. I didn't see that at all in some of the early research, so if I could understand that process. Thank you.
Through the Mayor. In terms of that particular outcome, Councillor Vorster, obviously the executive team, ELT, have been engaged obviously in this process throughout, and it was considered to be one of our major activities over the next 10 years. I know it's not till 2032, but I think the view was there's a huge amount of preparatory work that needs to be undertaken for us to leverage those opportunities over the next 10 years, and that was considered to be an important role for the city.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And if I could just say this before moving on to my next question. I mean, the corporate plan is the guiding document that sets the agenda for the whole organisation, and it's something that is endorsed by the community through consultation. Now, our city has been shunned, in my view, from involvement at the upper echelons of the Olympic piece, and I'm deeply worried that we are entangled in a process that will put burden on us without a social and economic dividend. Now, I totally appreciate that including this in the corporate plan is about clawing back that dividend and trying to make the most of a bad situation. But I'm worried that we are, as a council, inviting the community to endorse a full-throttled engagement with the Games when we've actually had no meaningful commitment that we will see an infrastructure dividend. So my question is, if we endorse a corporate plan that puts a focus on the Olympic Games, are we going to be in a difficult position to temper our involvement in the Games if we're not seeing adequate infrastructure provided by the feds and the state?
Through the Mayor. I think there are probably two components that sit under that particular outcome. One is obviously the Games itself, which we set that one aside. The other is the opportunity that the Games coming to Queensland will bring to the city. And there are, I think they're really looking to identify all those other benefits and opportunities that the Games might leverage outside of the event itself.
So, Mr Mayor, if that pillar merely said that we will take advantage of the opportunity of the Games, I'm all for it. But if it then talks to us supporting the delivery of Brisbane's Games, then I'm not interested. Personally, the community might have a different view. So I think if there is that nuance from an officer level, that language needs to be completely tightened up, because every report that we get, Mr Mayor, presently has a section regarding the impacts on the Brisbane 2032 Games. I would hate for every decision that we make between now and 2032, and certainly over the 5-year life of this corporate plan, to tie us back to supporting Brisbane. But I think George Street needs to be doing a better job of supporting us. Mr Mayor, I had some questions around the vibrant lifestyle pillar.
No, just before we move on,
yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Let's tease out the One City part of it that you raised. What did you want to do? You just want to go to leverage?
Yes, so we partnered to leverage emerging opportunities for the city ahead of the Brisbane 2032 Olympic Games.
Okay. You got that? You captured that, Joe? Okay. Yep. I'm happy with that.
Yep.
Councillors, anyone upset?
Mr Mayor, can I ask a question on that?
Yes, go ahead.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So if the Olympic Games was not around, if we didn't have to consider the Olympic Games, what would be the meaning of the words One City? What does that mean? Like if that just was out of the equation, what does that element refer to?
Through you, Mr Mayor. I think in terms of the aspiration for One City, at a higher level, it's about working together as a city, whether it's business community, all our residents, to actually make this obviously the best city to live and visit. And it's taking advantage of opportunities. So it's harnessing opportunities we see as a city and working together. Probably the longer form of the aspiration statement talks about being proud of the city. It talks about advocating to other levels of government. It talks about building a strong, positive reputation for the city and being a high-performing city and maximising opportunities. It's about, as I say, trying to, I guess, explain that the city it can come together and actually work for the whole benefit of the city and working together across the various sectors. That's what the aspiration is actually about. And for the next 5 years, the view was that one of the most the biggest opportunities might be leveraging the opportunity the games may offer to the city over the longer term.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Page 27.
No, is this still the one city? I just want to finish.
No.
It's not. Can I just finish with that? I'll come back to you. Councillor Pauline Young.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And just to, to look at that, the one city as we stated, it's, and I think my perspective on this is that, you know, we have cities elsewhere in Australia that are governed by several councils within the city, and I think under your leadership going through, it's always been we're elected representatives for a particular area, but we represent the city first and then we represent our area. And to me, that possibly needs to say that a little bit more in there, is that whilst we are each representing 30,000 residents and some of our northern counterparts are representing more, is that we all come together in this room, and while we don't always agree, we're working to one goal, and that's for the city under your leadership.
Okay. Any other comment on the one city? No? All right, so what?
Yeah, under one city, I did have a suggestion in our measure of success bracket, the very bottom one, where it says City Pride, and then it said average residential rate rise. I didn't quite understand what that meant, to say average residential rate rise. I had proposed in a memo to Kath Drinkwater that we perhaps say something like disciplined residential rates rises.
I think it comes back to our previous motion where general rates for residents is to be kept at CPI or below. Is that right, Mr CEO? That's really reflecting on that, isn't it?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. That is the intent, that that measure relates directly to rate rises within CPI, as has been stated. I'll just make another general comment about the measures. At this stage, excuse the language, but they're a bit loose. I think there's a bit of work to be done in tightening those up, but the expectation is that we'll do the community consultation, make sure they're in the right areas, and then look to make them very tight and very measurable. At the moment, they're more themes than they are tight KPIs or measures. So I think that's the two-step process that we'll go through.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the explanation, but I just didn't understand what average meant in that context, because what is the average?
Well, we can add to that rate rise to be CPI or below. That makes it.
Well, I don't know that you probably even want to do that when CPI is sitting at 6% or thereabouts. So I think CPI is a bit dicey at the moment, because we would never want to.
But it says all below.
That does say all below, Mr Mayor, correct.
You know. Councillor Vorster?
I'm ready to move on to the next one if you are, Mr Mayor.
No.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, may I make another comment on one city?
Yes, go ahead.
When you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I don't feel comfortable with this at all. I don't think it really meets what we need in terms of that one city element. At the moment, I mean, this includes our advocacy work. Our controlled entities are all over the place in terms of their advocacy, not related and certainly not through the city. It's not aligned with a city view. And I think all of that could be pictured far clearer in this vision. And I don't think it's even noted or acknowledged. So I would like to see quite a bit more work done on that element.
Okay. So we're at the crossroad here then, councillors, on the one city. Either we take it forward with minor amendments as suggested by Councillor Vorster regarding the leverage of the opportunity from the 2032, or do the other extreme is to remove the one city pillar until it's more teased out. That's the sort of crossroad. Councillor Owen Jones.
Mr Mayor, I'd be happy with the minor change, and let's see what results from the community consultation, and it may very well be that the community helps tease out a better set of words, and there might be some tightening up of the looseness of it.
Okay, so it is said, then let it be done, as your Brunner said in the King and I. Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm just looking at page 12, and that's the city aspiration statements. And if you look under one city, I think that more portrays what we're actually trying to attain through the one city. And maybe we could look at more that wording.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Councillor, so we'll just do that minor tweak, leave it in there, and let's move on to the next item. Councillor McDonald.
Mr Mayor, I just would like a little bit of discussion, and I've always asked questions about affordable housing. You know, really, what is affordable housing? Can anybody answer that question?
Councillor Jones.
So I think it is when approximately 30% of the family income is used to help provide safe and desirable housing outcomes. So when the percentage goes over that, it suddenly doesn't become affordable housing. So that's the simple measure that's used.
Yeah. Mr Mayor, well, just to be cheeky to Councillor Jones, 28% I think is considered the official figure of affordable.
Okay, I'm back to Councillor McDonald.
Mr Mayor, in a lot of applications, you know, for planning applications, it's always talked about affordable housing here on the Gold Coast. And in the area that I represent, I think some of the cheapest properties are around about $1 million. And what I'm hearing loud and clear throughout the community is that we just do not have affordable housing here on the Gold Coast, and the market really dictates if those properties are affordable. And that is my concern, you know, that the community is saying about our housing, affordable housing, and it's that our community is livable. So to provide affordable housing, I think I've seen just recently one-bedroom units, very, very small, 1.5 million. And, you know, if you've got a family, certainly a 1.5 million property is very hard to obtain.
Yeah, but that's not the average price of a one-bedroom unit in our city. We
I'm not saying it's...
I'm saying you can't pick from one property, I don't know where it is, and put a $1.5 million figure on it to be...
You only have to look in the for sale sections of the paper and see what the costs of the properties are. So, you know, so I just want to know what the community's expectation is on what their reliance is on affordable housing.
When we go to community consultation, we'll get that feedback. All right. Councillor Lacastra?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, look, my understanding, rightly or wrongly, is that with affordable housing, it's not so much the cost of the property, it's actually the amount of money you're using to service your loan or your rent. So it's your proportionate income, I think, as Councillor Owen Jones has said, and I think...
28%.
Yeah. I think, interestingly, I might surprise you, actually, read financial articles most mornings, Councillor Owen Jones, through you, Mr Mayor, but an interesting article that I read only a couple of days ago saying that for younger people in particular, the average 18-year-old in capital cities around Australia, I know we're not a capital city, but we're like a pseudo-capital city, is spending close to 50% of their income just to rent one room. So there is an incredible need for affordable housing. There's no doubt about it. Probably never more so, particularly here. So
yeah.
But that was my understanding of how it's the definition of affordable housing.
Don't get me wrong. I want the next generation get the afford the opportunity that we all had back when we first bought our first dwelling, and the market's moved somewhat. But that's not just the Gold Coast or Australia; it's throughout the world. Anyhow, we'll do our best to make sure that we preserve our lifestyle, and secondly, that affordable housing for young people to get in there. I mean, some of us got kids in there, young kids, meaning young adults, and we want them to live the Australian dream, and we'll be working towards that. But now is not the time to try to tweak a corporate plan to go, well, we can deliver that. Well, this is an overarching part of where we're going to head. To go into detail on affordable housing, I'll have to ask Councillor Gates to chair, because it can take 2-3 hours and not get anywhere. Councillor Vorster.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. May we return to page 13?
We're going to go to 13, anyone? Or
just before we do, I actually don't have a problem with us discussing the idea of delivering affordable housing in the city for all of the reasons you said, Mr Mayor, and it's both the private stock and also the government stock of affordable housing that provides outcomes. So prior to being a councillor, I was involved with what was then the Gold Coast Housing Company. Councillor McDonald, you may recall that between 3rd and 4th Avenue down in Palm Beach, we built some units down there precisely for the very concerns that you have, that there are vulnerable members of our community that need to be able to be safely housed, and some of the real big drivers for affordable housing is when we ask for multiple car spots in some dwellings where they're on high volume transport routes. So because a basement car park may add $60,000 to $100,000 towards the price of something, and it's the price of something that triggers challenges with affordable housing. So we need to be able to provide through our city plan and also through what we're discussing today, a whole lot of options for a whole lot of different people. But every time we add an expense to the delivery of something, we're actually adding to the cost of housing accommodation, and so it's a circular action. So every time we add something, we've got to think, what is the consequence to some of the people that might be looking to occupy those types of dwellings in the future? And we can't keep everybody happy all of the time, but we need to be very conscious of that, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, I'll add to that additional setback on a property, take away the densification of that property, and the end product, because there's less product, the prices go up. So, I mean, there's a list of variables. It's no doubt that affects the end price of it. And then you've got people from Melbourne and Sydney wanting to come up here, and they find our product a lot cheaper than Sydney. Councillor Vorster?
Just on page 13, Mr Mayor.
Yep, page 13, yep.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't chair the meeting, so I'm in his hands. Mr Mayor, I had some questions concerning connected community, and again, they relate to all of the research that has been undertaken to this point. I think it'd be fair to say, so page 13, Councillor Gates, if you're wondering, connected community. I mean, I think all of us know that infrastructure is of critical importance, particularly as our population continues to grow. I mean, we don't live in Western Sydney. We have no desire to deal with the Western Sydney experience. And the only way we can ensure that that not happen is if we've got infrastructure that makes it easy to get around the city. My concern is, and I suppose my question is, how did city officers look at the glaring emphasis on worsening traffic congestion and translate that to a more benign theme of community connectedness? I mean, I really would have thought that we would have had as a possibly the central pillar of our corporate plan, delivering the infrastructure required to protect our lifestyle and support population growth. All I'm really seeing is a little dot point under measures of success that talk about travel time reliability, nothing about tackling congestion and providing infrastructure to support growth. So again, could I just get an understanding of how this really dominant theme of the research is so underrepresented on page 13?
Well, just before you go there, travel time reliability would mean that you are there to solve the transport infrastructure, the lacking part of it, and that comes in various things, whether it's public transport, whether it's active travel, whether it's additional lane on the bridge, whether the road is been upgraded. That all feeds into travel time reliability. Councillor Vorster?
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I think the way I read it, which is why I asked the question, and if your point is correct and the words I feel need to change, it can reliably take me an hour and a half to pick up my child from kindergarten, because it always takes me an hour and a half. It doesn't mean it should take an hour and a half. So I see the work that needs to be done around easing congestion and reducing travel time, or rather bring travel time in to a point where it's consistent with our desired service standards in our LGIP program as the key action, because reliability really talks to consistency. It doesn't talk to a reduction in travel time, which can come with better public transport, shared travel, all of the things you're talking about. So for me, I'm just concerned that we might entrench the status quo rather than meet the community aspiration, which is for easing congestion, which is actually captured in our research.
Through you, Mr Mayor. In terms of that connected community, one of the things we picked up in terms of the aspiration was people's aspirations to feel connected and be connected, whether it's friends, relatives, family, work, and that was the theme about making connections, whether it was through transport or digitally. So that was the theme that was coming through from the community, wanting to be connected with each other. In terms of that particular outcome, I think inherent in that is infrastructure. It is about delivering that choice to city residents about how they get around the city. And just in terms of that travel time reliability, there will be, with each of these measures, a baseline, a target, definitions which will be coming forward as part of the adoption of the plan. And each of those will have current state versus future state. So in terms of travel time reliability, that information will be provided as part of that. Now, whether there is a view that the word infrastructure is added in, but inherent in it is infrastructure. One of the things we're probably not seeing at the moment as well is the signature actions. So once this plan comes back to council, obviously the budget's under review at the moment and will be in May. So we'll be bringing back the list of signature actions that are associated with each of these outcomes. For this particular one, there'll be significant infrastructure actions associated with it. So once you see the actions that relate to implementation, you'll be seeing a lot of that other content which you're probably not seeing in the outcome at the moment.
Okay. Councillor Vorster.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I could go on, but I won't. I'd just like to understand through you, perhaps to Sarah, I suppose if there are all of these goodies out there that may satiate me and satiate the community, will those key action items and will those more robust definitions be included as part of the consultation that we're being asked to endorse today? Or are we merely asking the community to respond to the high-level content that we've been presented in this presentation?
Through you, Mr Mayor. In terms of the document, this is the requirements for legislative requirements for consultation. The signature actions at this point wouldn't be possible to put forward because they're actually part of the budget process and they're not yet being discussed by council. So those won't be available to the community yet, unfortunately. But in terms of the measures, obviously the measures are there. If there's more information needed on the measures, we can add some more information on those measures.
Mr Mayor, we already have some amendments. We don't have a motion, of course, but we do have some amended words on the screen. To ensure that I can sit down and hold my peace, I just wonder whether you would be comfortable with some added words forming a 3A. which would read that the community consultation provide the community an opportunity to nominate and define additional measures of success.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah,
can I walk this over?
Yes. Okay, councillors, any other one? Councillor Owen Jones?
Mr Mayor, if Councillor Vorster is moving that, I'd be happy to second it.
Would you like to move that? Move, Councillor Vorster, second, Councillor Owen Jones. The motion's there. Question, Councillor Gates?
It's not a question, Mr Mayor. I simply wanted to make the suggestion. I sent through a list of just minor changes that I felt might be the preparation might include, and I just thought perhaps others could send it through so that it forms part of the discussion and there can be a decision. A couple of the things that I had mentioned were just moving some of the items into a different location and just a couple of grammatical things. So I've sent an email through and I'm not going to bore everyone today.
I think send it straight to the CEO and
yeah.
you'll incorporate that.
Sure.
All right, thank you. Councillor Vorster, want to speak on that?
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I just want to applaud the city officers and our new CEO for putting together a very good report which highlights the need for us to do a better job of planning, because if we've got a good plan, then we've got good decisions and our city will prosper. It's important work. In a lot of ways, I wish the CEO, our new CEO, had a bit more time to get this right, but we're bound by legislative timelines which require us to do this work immediately. The good thing about a corporate plan is that we've got the opportunity to revise it when it's appropriate to revise. So this is a good start, may not be perfect, but the community has an opportunity to get us closer to that destination through consultation. Very happy to support the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking against the motion? No? No against? Councillor Owen Jones?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think that everything Councillor Vorster has said is very true, and in particular that we've got a tight legislative requirement, but we also knew at the end of last year that we would have a new CEO in the role, so I think that we deliberately delayed it to give the new CEO a bit of an opportunity to have his imprints on it. And I think that bringing it to today's council meeting as other business makes sense, because it's provided us with just that little bit more opportunity, and that opportunity will be, as per the recommendation, at the next in the May governance meeting. I'd encourage all councillors, including Councillor Lacastra, for what might be a 5-hour meeting, to attend, and we can digest some of that information that the community has fed back to us, and then we will hit the timeline that we need to in regards to the June adoption, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone speak against? Councillor Vorster, you want to close?
Happy to leave it at that. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands.
Favour.
Against? Councillor Caldwell, which way did you go? Councillor Caldwell? It's a yes?
Yes.
Unanimous. As there's no other items, the meeting closed at 11:44. We've got the Thai food.